By now, you've all seen Thomas Tuchel's first England squad. Ooh, oh dear. Today, we're going to go through position by position. We're going to swap out the wrong players and include the correct players. Because looking at this, I mean, what on earth's happened? Tommy T, I love you, and I think the selection of you as England manager was absolutely spot on. But I've got quite a few problems. I actually don't think there was a need to pick 4 goalkeepers. We should start there. Obviously, his reasoning behind that is that he wanted to see a number of different goalkeepers in training every single day. Pickford definitely has to be in there. He's got the 6th best defensive record in the league this season, despite playing for Everton. He's 3rd in the league for clean sheets, which is quite remarkable, playing for that terrible Everton side for at least 80% of the season, or at least pre-David Moyes. He's been remarkable for England and pretty much puts up 8 out of 10 performances every week for Everton. So fine, he's in. The most underrated goalkeeper in the league, Dean Henderson, I think so far this season, has to be in there. He's joint 3rd with Jordan Pickford in terms of the Golden Glove race for clean sheets. But in terms of goals being prevented, XG being prevented, Dean Henderson is clear. That leaves a shootout for me between Aaron Ramsdale and James Trafford. Now, James Trafford is part of a Burnley side that have conceded 11 goals this season. From an XG of 30, they should have conceded about 30 goals. They've conceded 11. He's put up 11 or 12 post-shot expected goals. Really comfortable with the ball at his feet, having come through that Manchester City academy system. I expect him to get a big move in the summer away from Burnley, even though they are probably going to get promoted to the Premier League. And that is the reason I think I would have him just over Aaron Ramsdale, who I don't think has had an amazing season at Southampton, part of a Southampton side that have been pretty diabolically bad. Now, that's not to say I don't rate him as a keeper, because I really do. And I think Ramsdale will definitely stay in the Premier League. He'll get a move to a club with that relegation release clause. But the future of this England squad might well be James Trafford. So I would have gone Pickford, Henderson, Trafford as my goalkeepers. Let's go to the right backs then, where James Livramento and Kyle Walker were selected. Well, first and foremost, Kyle Walker wouldn't be in there for me. I think he's past his best in terms of his output, in terms of his general physicality, which I think has been in decline for quite some time. His ability on the ball, his positional sense were all being badly exposed for Manchester City. And at Milan, he hasn't taken huge strides towards getting back to his former best, which I don't think will happen because of his age profile. So I would not have included Kyle Walker in this squad. I can understand why Tuchel has included a lot of these senior players. Clearly, he's thinking about off the field as much as he's thinking about on it, with the likes of Kyle Walker, Jordan Henderson, who we're going to come and speak about in a little bit. I also wouldn't have included Reece James. Again, I can see why Thomas Tuchel has included Reece James because of his prior connection at Chelsea, because of his ability on the ball and what he can offer. But I haven't been massively impressed this season with him under Enzo Maresca. This new role in central midfield, I think he's going to take some getting used to. Still prefer to see him in the right back slot. And it is going to be interesting to see what dynamic progresses in terms of the formation, because I think a lot of people at home are expecting him to play a 3 at the back system. I'm actually not expecting him to play a 3 at the back system. If you take that Chelsea season in isolation, Thomas Tuchel throughout his career has really been a 4 at the back manager. I think the squad sets up far better for a 4 at the back system, and I'm not totally sure Reece James, with his injury record, with this new role he's playing at Chelsea, has done enough to get in there over either Tino Livramento or, for me, I would have had Jed Spence in there. I think Jed Spence has been absolutely sensational. When we look at how well-rounded his profile is, Jed Spence, from not only a defensive action point of view, but from a progression point of view, it really stands out amongst Premier League fullbacks. And this is playing in a Tottenham side that have been honking. They've been diabolical. Jed Spence has been outstanding at not only ball carrying, winning the ball back. His ground duel win percentage is ridiculous. I think if outside of Trent, who has obviously been injured, Spence and Livramento have been the 2 outstanding English right backs in the league for me this season. They really have. Livramento is going from strength to strength. The final performance against Mo Salah for Newcastle was absolutely masterful. And the biggest bonus you get out of both of these players is they can also play at left back. Jed Spencer spent a long portion of the season playing in that left back role at Spurs. Livramento, at the weekend, against the most deadly right winger in world football in Mo Salah, did not give him a sniff playing as a left back. Both of these players have really unique profiles, and I just cannot believe that Jed Spence was not included in this squad. Okay, let's go to the centre halves. I think Jarell Quansah wouldn't have been in my 26. I don't think he has played enough games for Liverpool this season. I don't think he has shown enough progression to be included over some of the players that have been excluded. For me, no doubt Jared Branthwaite should have been in there over Jarell Quansah. His defensive record has been pretty exceptional this season. Like I said for Jordan Pickford, the 6th best defensive record in the league, despite the fact he's at Everton playing under Sean Dyche. He's looked really, really good on the ball. His progression has definitely improved. His physicality has never been wanting. I also really like the fact he's left-footed. Adds another string to his bow, being able to play in a back three or a back four as a left-sided centre-back or as a central centre-back. For me, he's also the future of this England backline, which hasn't been considered in this squad, has it? If we're real, the idea of future-proofing a squad goes out the window a little bit when you appoint Thomas Tuchel. It's a win-now manager, which is fine. That is fine, but I would also like to see some of the hottest young talent in England get given a chance. I mean, Quansah's got given a chance when I think Branthwaite's had a better season than him. Ezri Quansah, fine. I would probably just about keep him in there, despite the fact Villa have had some problems. His ground duel win percentage was the best in the league last season. It's the best in the league this season. If you're going into a 1v1 battle with Ezri Quansah, you're going to lose it. He stands out massively from that facet, so I like somebody who is aggressive in the duels. Absolutely fine. I thought Mark Gahey was England's best player at the Euros. He was outstanding in every single facet of the game. His on-the-ball ability has improved yet again this season, playing in the back three, and he's going to get a super move for sure this summer. There are a few question marks as to whether or not Levi Colwill should have been included, but at 22 years old, another player that is future-proofing the side, another left-footed centre-back, and despite the fact Chelsea have had a major wobble recently, I think what's impressed me the most about Colwill this season is he doesn't have an experienced partner or a consistent partner playing alongside him, really. So he has to be the main man at 22. And I don't know whether you guys at home saw this on Twitter, but this was a sort of under 23 centre-back plotting chart from the whole of Europe. So what we're looking at here is build-up responsibility versus who wins the most duels. So if you're a player up in this sort of realm, you're really heavily involved in your club's build-up, and you're also a ball-winning centre-back. You know, you've got the likes of Pau Kabasi, who is the outstanding young centre-back in European football up there. Taylor Holwood-Bellis also profiles really well. He's included in the 21 setup. And Levi Colwill is right up there as well. Dean Howson, despite the fact he makes a few errors, I still think he is an elite level centre-back in the future. Let's go to the left-backs then. And clearly Lewis Hall would be in here, wouldn't he? You've got Miles Lewis-Skelly, who I think absolutely deserves that call-up. Some of the hate Miles Lewis-Skelly has got online recently has been vile. It's been disgusting. For an 18-year-old to have come through, broken through, scored goals in the Premier League, Champions League debuts, he looks like a regular, locked down that slot for the second best team in the country. And people were hammering him, sort of taking the mick out of him for the red card stuff. I just don't get it. I don't get why we want to rip down one of our hottest young talents. Whether or not his future lies at left back or in centre mid, who cares at this stage? He's developing at such a fast rate. For an 18-year-old to be as physical as he is remarkable. Now, we spoke about Ezri Quansah being a duel-winning monster. Well, in terms of ground duels, Miles Lewis-Skelly is winning the second highest percentage in the Premier League behind Quansah. So this is a player who's 18, he's combative, he's not just a dueler, but he can also carry the ball physically through the lines. He was always able to do that in the youth side. He's carried that onto the Premier League. Why are people hating on him? I don't get it. I just do not understand it. I actually would keep Dan Burn. I actually like that pick by Thomas Tuchel. I think it tells other people, doesn't matter what your background is, doesn't matter what your story is, if you've had a good season, you can be selected. And Dan Burn has had a bloody good season yet again. With Sven Botman's injury, it feels like there's been very little drop-off from that back line. He is filled in not only at centre-back, but he can also offer cover at left-back. His height is a massive problem for opposition in both penalty boxes, to be honest with you, as we saw with Liverpool last weekend when they tried to put McAllister as a blocker on him. I love him as a character. I've been fortunate enough to interview him a couple of times, and he is a huge personality, which I definitely think you need. A big leader. And yes, he probably won't be an England 26 World Cup player, but right now, yeah, I would pick him. There's not many left backs to pick from. That's why I've got Spencer Livramento, who can also play out there, and Burn can play as a left-sided centre-back and a left-back. All right, let's go into the midfield. And this is really where there's a lot of problems for me. I think there are a lot of issues with the selections from here on in. No doubt Declan Rice has to be in there. I still prefer him as a 6. I know that Arsenal fans are pretty split on this. Some pundits want to see him box crashing all the time. Whenever I watch Declan Rice, I still think he's the best when he's picking the ball up deep, driving, trying to win the ball back, pretty dogged off it. I like him as a 6-man more than I like him as a sort of advanced box crashing 8. So I would definitely select him as my 6. He is a nailed on name there. Would I have picked Jordan Henderson or Curtis Jones? I don't think so. I like Curtis Jones, and he has big impacts whenever he comes onto the pitch for Liverpool, but I don't think he's been as good as Elliot Anderson this season. I think Elliot Anderson had to be selected in this squad. I know that he's with the 21s, and that's fine, but for me, in terms of ball-carrying number 8s, there aren't too many better in the Premier League flat out than Elliot Anderson this season. The fact that there were originally no Nottingham Forest players picked in this squad was a shambles. They have been amazing, not just in a deep block, but also in terms of counter-attacking football. We heard Thomas Tuchel speak about he doesn't want to be a Spain or a Brazil. He doesn't want to play this sort of tippy-tappy, pass out from that football. He wants to be much more direct, much more physical. That's a player like Elliot Anderson, who has this season made his money being fast, direct, physical, winning the ball back, being able to beat people. He's in the top 15% of European midfielders for progressive carries, the top 3% for successful take-ons. I think Elliot Anderson should have been picked over Curtis Jones. I like Curtis Jones, but Anderson's had a better season for me. There's also no way Jordan Henderson should have been picked. I understand that he is a leader and he's been there, won it all, done it in the past, but he doesn't even start for Ajax every week. Like, this chat about him being the Ajax captain, yeah, but he's not regularly selected in the 11. He hasn't been picked as part of England squads for ages. I think it's a regression to pick Jordan Henderson, and I think it's ridiculous not to pick Adam Wharton. Adam Wharton is a profile we don't have in the squad. And I look at our midfield that has been selected by Thomas Tuchel there. Who's the passer? From Rice, Henderson, Curtis Jones, who wants to get on the ball and split the lines? What is so remarkable about Wharton is his natural progressive ability. He wants to pick the ball up deep and split the lines. Every time he gets the ball, he wants to play it forward very quickly. And I think that is a problem with England. We talk about being direct, fine, but too many of our players want to take the safe option. Adam Wharton never wants to take the safe option. I saw a really interesting statistic actually on Scouted Football the other day, which stood out for Adam Wharton. Really shocked me. Of all of the players, so I think it's about 360 players that are born 2001 or later and have played in a European top 5 league for over 400 minutes this season. So some of the best players in Europe that are young. Adam Wharton is the only, so he's the number 1 player of all of those 360 players in the whole of Europe that ranks above the 85th percentile for progressive passes, percentage of passes as progressive passes, and progressive pass yards. So in nearly every facet of getting the ball forward quickly and over a distance, Adam Wharton is the best in Europe for his age. And yet we're not including him in the squad over Jordan Henderson. I don't see who in our midfield can progress the ball from deep to forward as quickly as Wharton. And Tuchel talks about wanting to play direct, wanting to really tap into what the Premier League's about. I think that is what Wharton is so good at. And he hasn't been picked. It's a mystifying selection for me not picking Adam Wharton. I was toying with the idea of including Angel Gomez as well. I like players that can get on the ball and are very comfortable in tight spaces, but I just prefer Adam Wharton's progressive numbers, to be honest with you. Let's look outside the Premier League, shall we? I think Conor Gallagher deserved a shout in this squad. I know he's only started 13 La Liga games for Atletico Madrid, but again, like some of these other players, his doggedness off the ball has been a huge factor in success in big games for Atletico Madrid. You think back to the goals against Barcelona, the goal against Real Madrid, the 2 tackles in the 90th minute, got a whole crowd going. There's a reason Simeone absolutely loves Conor Gallagher. And I know in past England squads, people have sort of been like, oh, Conor Gallagher being picked. I don't think England fans should be sneering at a player like Conor Gallagher, who is really playing well in a different style of football, a different league. He's adapted very quickly to La Liga. And again, to pick Jordan Henderson over Conor Gallagher this season, I'm a bit mystified by that, to be honest with you. Okay, let's go into the number 10s. How was he not picked originally? Morgan Gibbs-White. How was he not selected originally? 15 goal involvements last season. It's 12 goal involvements this season. But it's his all-round influence, his tackles, his doggedness off the ball, his leadership, the fact that he is improving with each passing game week. I think to the pass against Manchester City, the crossfield ball, that was a classic example of an improved area of Morgan Gibbs-White passing from deep across the field. He had to be in there over Eberechi Eze for me. I love Eze. He's one of my favourite footballers in the world. But he is not having his best season at Crystal Palace. It's 9 goal involvements in the Premier League, and he has struggled at times. Morgan Gibbs-White is having a better season. I have to say, I probably wouldn't have included Eberechi Eze in there. Phil Foden, lucky boy to be in there. Like, do I include Phil Foden? Phil Foden's hanging on for me at the moment. I think he's had a pretty poor season, Phil Foden, by his own ridiculous standards. 27 goal involvements last season, down to 9 this campaign. Lots of minutes on the bench. He just hasn't looked himself. However, the technical ability of Foden is like so sky high that you feel like you've got to cram him in there somewhere. I'm interested to hear what you guys think about Phil Foden. Would you have included him in this year's squad? He's taken a big step back on his statistical profiles, underlying numbers of last season. He's not as influential in that Manchester City side as he was last season, but still, there is a part of me that's like, he's got to be in there. Jude obviously has to be in there. He's a nailed on one. Morgan Rogers, absolutely nailed on one. For sure has to be in there as well. Obviously, Cole Palmer would be in here. He would replace Foden, honestly. If Palmer was fit, Foden would be out, Palmer would be in there, and Morgan Gibbs-White would be retaining his place. I think Morgan Gibbs-White has been better than Phil Foden this season. Saka is also obviously out injured. He would be in there probably over Jarrod Bowen, but I do love Jarrod Bowen's intensity. I think as a goal scorer, he's actually one of the best wide options we've got. He's proven he can do it in big moments, in big games. He is deadly in front of goal. He took his finish against Chelsea recently so well, and he deserves this spot. But I also would definitely have had Ethan Nwaneri in there. When you're talking about superstar talents, and this is what Nwaneri is, you know, some of the records we're looking at, Michael Owen, Wayne Rooney numbers here of goals for his age. When you're looking at a talent like that, you get him in your first team squad as quickly as possible. You want him in there mixing with the senior players as quickly as possible. Now, he's going to get more minutes for the 21s, but is he going to get the experience he would have got working with the senior squad? No. We're talking about a player here who is not only a natural goal scorer coming in on his left foot, looks physically ready for the Premier League, but has the best dribble success rate of any player in the league that has attempted 40 dribbles. That's better than the likes of Jeremy Doku, better than Savio. He drifts past players like they're not there, and he's so young. I can't believe he's not in the squad when Saka's out injured. On the left, I would have had Anthony Gordon in there as well. Been a bit hit and miss this season, but definitely deadly on the counter-attack. Adds some much-needed pace to our side, which is why I can see Rashford has been selected as well. We'll talk about him in a little bit. He also has a big game factor, Anthony Gordon. I don't think it's talked about enough how influential he is in Newcastle's major fixtures. Against the Big Six, his record in 21 Big Six fixtures, he's scored or assisted 17 goals. 17 in 21 games against the Big Six. That's an incredibly impressive record. Should have got more minutes at the Euros. He's rightly in there. What about Marcus Rashford then? Who is really looking very dangerous at Aston Villa. His close control looks better. His attitude and work rate looks better. There's never been any question about his pace and his danger factor in 1v1s. He will go past you if he can stand you up. But has he had as good a season as Callum Hudson-Odoi? For me, no. I think Callum Hudson-Odoi should have been selected over Marcus Rashford. Callum Hudson-Odoi's output this season at Nottingham Forest, massively underrated. I think his ability on the ball is the best we've seen of him throughout his entire top-flight career. He looks so comfortable in 1v1s. He looks so good drifting in. That sort of trademark curling right-footed effort from that inside left channel is impossible to stop. And again, Forest players have been disrespected in this squad selection. Callum Hudson-Odoi should have been in there over Rashford for me. Rashford's had a good 8-9 weeks. Callum Hudson-Odoi has had a good 5 or 6 months. He's been remarkable for Forest and should have been picked. That leaves the strikers. Well, Solanke and Kane were selected. Obviously, Kane has to be in there. He's having a stupid season yet again at Bayern Munich. He's going to win his first title. As for Dominic Solanke, I probably wouldn't have picked him. The injury problems he's had this season, combined with the fact he scored 7 goals in a Tottenham team that have been really poor, maybe are a little bit of an unfair way to judge him, because his actual all-round contribution, his back-to-goal work, the fact he presses so well, are really positive factors for him. But I still think Ollie Watkins looks more dangerous whenever I watch him. Ollie Watkins picks up chances so regularly. And yes, he misses quite high-profile moments, but the fact he gets into these areas and it's a constant threat with his channel runs means for me I would have selected him. Like, is it flying under the radar? He's got 19 Premier League goal involvements, none of them being penalties. I know the fact that John Duran was getting headlines definitely took it away from Ollie Watkins a little bit, but he's still leading the line in a side that are in a Champions League quarter-final. So that's 25 players, but I've still got a spare space because I didn't take the 4 goalkeepers, and I think that spare space should have gone to Liam Delap. I think you want a future-proofed striker in this squad. Watkins is nearly 30. Kane is over 30. You know, Dominic Solanke is late 20s. Where's the young striker that is going to learn from Harry Kane in training? That should have been Liam Delap. He's with the 21s, fine, but he scored double figures of goals in his debut Premier League season for a diabolically poor Ipswich side. He offers something that's a little bit like Kane, to be honest with you, in the fact he wants to drop into these areas, receive the ball and turn, but the difference that he offers is his ability to drive with the ball. I think Kane or Watkins are players that are going to pick the ball up and drive past 2 or 3 players, drive 40 yards up the field and release someone, which Delap has proven he can do this season in the Premier League. He's the future of England in that number 9 role. He should have been given a chance. That, for me, is an all-round better squad than the one Thomas Tuchel selected. I know that people will have their own choices. I'm interested to hear them in the comments below. But where was the respect on Nottingham Forest in this squad selection, man? Where was the youth and future idea? I didn't love it, but it's only Albania and Latvia. I get that. It's only a minimal thing, isn't it?